Welcome back to the Integrative Counselor, where we integrate mind, body, and beyond. We'll be exploring the art of science and holistic wellness, and I am your host, Julie, an integrative counselor passionate about helping you cultivate a life that feels aligned, intentional, and fulfilling for you. Throughout the podcast, we dive into meaningful conversations about mental health, personal growth, and the powerful connection between the mind, body, and spirit. Before we begin, just a reminder, the resources shared in this podcast are for educational and self-help purposes only. They are not a substitute for professional therapy, counseling, or medical advice. Everyone's journey is absolutely unique, so explore what feels supportive and aligned for you. And if you're experiencing distress, please reach out to a qualified mental health professional in your area. You are not alone, and help is available. So if you've been with us through the Resolutions That Gets Results series, thank you for your presence, your curiosity, and your willingness to explore what real sustainable change looks like from the inside out. Well, today, my friends, we will be shifting gears. And that is, how do we find balance in a shifting world? And how do we cultivate trust in times of uncertainty? In the past few years, uncertainty has moved from being a quiet undercurrent to a daily reality for many of us. From a global pandemic to climate change, political division, economic volatility, rising mental health struggles, and rapid technological shifts, it's no wonder our nervous systems feel overwhelmed. The world feels less predictable than it once did. Plans change so quickly. News cycles are constant. What once felt stable, our health, careers, communities, even the future of the planet, now feels so fragile or unclear. And this collective instability can leave us feeling unanchored, even when things in our personal life might appear fine on the surface. Uncertainty is no longer just a passing phase. It's a backdrop we're learning to live in. And that's why today's episode matters. Because in a world that keeps shifting, we need tools to help us stay steady, not by avoiding the unknown, but by learning how to meet it from a place of inner trust, nervous system awareness, and self-compassion. This episode is a soft place to land, a space to explore the impact of uncertainty on the mind, the body, and the heart, and how to rebuild inner trust. Not by having all the answers, but by learning how to stay present with whatever comes. So before we begin, let's take a moment to gently arrive into this space. If you are in a place where it feels safe to do so, close your eyes or just simply soften your gaze to the distance. Begin by taking a slow, deep breath in through your nose and let it go through your mouth. And one more time, inhale and exhale. And as you breathe, begin to notice what it feels like to sit right where you are. Feel the ground beneath you. Feel the support of the seat holding you. Notice the air moving in and out of your lungs. Uncertainty can feel like floating, like nothing is solid. But right now, in this moment, you are grounded, you are supported, and you are safe. Take one more breath in and silently remind yourself as you exhale, I don't need to have all the answers to be okay in this moment. And when you're ready, gently return your attention to the space around you. And let's begin. So uncertainty is the experience of not knowing what comes next. And it can show up in big, obvious ways, or even in the subtle, everyday moments. It might be the space in between jobs, the pause before a diagnosis, the in between of a breakup, a move, a transition, or even the unknowns in parenting, health, and global events. We often think of uncertainty as a mental experience, something that lives in our thoughts, but we feel it just as much in the body. You may notice a tightening of the chest, restless or irritability, a sense of hypervigilance or unease, racing thoughts trying to figure it all out at once, a deep craving for control, clarity, or closure. In a world that prizes certainty and productivity, not knowing can feel like a failure, but it's not. It's a deeply human experience, one that we all go through. Uncertainty can feel like standing on shifting sand with nothing to grip and no clear next step. And when life throws you curveballs such as an illness, change, loss, or transition, it's so natural to want to dig in and cling to some sense of control. But control isn't the same as safety. And sometimes what we really need isn't more certainty, it's more capacity to stay grounded in the unknown. So let's talk about how uncertainty can affect us. It can show up in our mind. It can look like racing thoughts, worst case scenario, overthinking, overanalyzing. And when we're navigating uncertainty, the mind often goes into overdrive in an attempt to predict and protect. And you may notice those racing thoughts jumping from one fear to another, making it so hard to stay present and concentrate or do any type of task. You may also notice a tendency to catastrophize, imagining the worst possible outcomes, even though they're highly unlikely. You may also notice that you're overanalyzing decisions or situations, and you're mentally replaying those conversations or future possibility in loops that just never seem to find resolve. This mental noise isn't a flaw. It's your brain trying to create some sense of safety through control. But instead of clarity, it often just creates overwhelm. The nervous system senses this constant alertness, and it remains in that heightened state, draining you of any emotional and cognitive energy. So what can help? Well, let's chat about a few things that might be supportive. The first is grounding practices. So when your mind starts spiraling through worst-case scenarios, try to anchor yourself in the present moment. So say, for example, you're lying in bed, you start worrying about a future conversation or situation. Instead of feeding the spiral, plant your feet on the floor, name 5 things in that moment that you can see, and take 3 slow, intentional breaths with a longer exhale. This signals to your body, I am here now, I am not in this imagined future. Another way is to practice mindful awareness. So notice your thoughts without judging them. Say to yourself, I am noticing that I am worrying right now. And rather than getting lost in the content of the worry, you're just noticing it and you're observing it, like watching a TV show on the TV screen. So, for example, you may catch yourself rehashing a conversation from work. Instead of diving into that self-criticism and shame, gently pause and say, this is just my brain trying to protect me. I don't need to solve this right now. And give yourself grace. Another way is to name the worry instead of identifying with it and becoming it. So give your worry a label. Perhaps call it the overthinking loop or my catastrophe brain, whatever makes sense for you. This can help create space between you and the thought. So for example, before hitting send on an important email, your brain begins to flood you with doubts. Pause and say, here's my inner perfectionist again. Naming it helps to loosen that grip, and it helps bring you back to choice. And finally, another way that you can navigate the mind in these scenarios is to journal. Journaling can create space from all that noise. So get that mental clutter out of your head and onto paper. Set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes and write without editing or filtering. So, for example, say you feel overwhelmed with current decisions about a job change. Grab your notebook or journal and write, "Here's everything I'm afraid of." The act of naming your fears makes them feel more manageable, and you might even discover some inner wisdom that's waiting underneath. Next, let's chat about how uncertainty can show up in our heart. That can look like emotional overwhelm, fear, grief, and even irritability. The heart is where we hold all the emotional impact of the unknown, and you may feel that fear of what's coming or what could be lost. You may start to feel that grief over what's already shifted in your life, or perhaps a version of the life that you had envisioned and hoped for. You may begin to notice irritability or mood swings, and those are often because the body is just simply overstimulated, overwhelmed, and emotionally taxed. And you also might notice a sense of what's called emotional flooding, where the feelings are coming in like a wave, so hard, so fast that you just feel it's impossible to manage. These emotions are deeply valid, my friends. They signal that something matters to you and that you're feeling the weight of it. When we leave these unacknowledged, they can turn inward, feeding self-doubt, feeding shame, and creating a disconnection from ourselves and from others. So what can help manage the heart of uncertainty? Perhaps we can start by creating some gentle emotional validation for ourselves, as we would with a friend or loved one. So instead of pushing away your feelings, try naming them with kindness. For example, you're feeling irritated and on edge for no clear reason. So rather than judging yourself, you simply pause and perhaps say to yourself, "This feels like overwhelm. It makes sense that I've been holding a lot." And this simple validation can often soften that internal resistance. And also practice compassion-focused journaling. So writing from the voice of someone who deeply cares about you. Let it be a letter of kindness to yourself, to the part of you that's struggling. For example, after a tough day, perhaps you want to open your journal and write down, "Dear me, I see how hard you're trying right now, and you didn't deserve to carry all that weight alone, and it's okay to rest for now." Another way to connect with our heart through uncertainty is by finding safety in others. Reach out to someone who makes you feel seen and supported, not to fix a feeling, but to be with you in it. So, for example, you could call a friend and say, "I don't need advice right now. I just need to vent and say this out loud." Soothing rituals can also be incredibly supportive. They engage all our senses in a way that can bring us comfort and presence, calming our nervous system. So that might look like a breath or regulation ritual, placing our hand over our heart and breathing slowly while repeating, "I am here, I am safe." Humming is another one that can stimulate our vagus nerve, creating a soft internal vibration and calming our nervous system. Some soothing environmental rituals might look like lighting a candle with intention, or perhaps playing a calming playlist. An important one is to just allow those emotions to move through you rather than to be suppressed within you. That could look like letting yourself cry, shake, breathe heavily, even scream into a pillow, whatever helps your body and that emotion to complete its cycle. Making room for your emotions to rise allows you to witness what's truly present. And in that awareness, healing can become possible. You can't heal what you can't feel. But when you welcome your feelings with tenderness, transformation can begin to happen. These practices are not about fixing your feelings. They're about befriending them. Let's chat about now how uncertainty can show up in our body through tension, restlessness, disrupted sleep, and even digestive issues. The body speaks the language of stress, and often it speaks it first. You may experience that muscle tension, especially in the shoulders, jaw, or stomach. You may also notice a sense of restlessness or urgency, and it feels like you can't relax even when nothing is happening in the moment. Sleep disruptions may show up, such as trouble falling asleep or waking up in the night, even through vivid dreams. And then digestive upset, because our stomach is so deeply connected to our nervous system. And when we're feeling that uncertainty and that overwhelm, it often can start there. These are signs that the body doesn't feel safe. It may be stuck in a sympathetic fight or flight state, and it's trying to mobilize energy for a threat that isn't even physically present. How can we navigate this, and what can help us when uncertainty shows up in our body? One way is through breath work. Slow, intentional breathing tells our nervous system you are safe now. For example, you could try a 4-6 breath, inhaling for 4 counts and exhaling for 6. Doing this for 1 to 2 minutes, and then noticing if your shoulders begin to drop and if your body begins to settle. Another way is through movement and walking. Often, if that restlessness shows up, that energy needs to go somewhere. So moving your body, especially rhythmically, can help process that stress hormone and reduce activation of our nervous system. That could look like going for a 10-minute walk and syncing your breath with your steps. Even gentle pacing around your home can help reset the energy. Another way to work with uncertainty in our body is to do body scans, bringing gentle awareness to our body, part by part, breath by breath, creating presence and safety. So, for example, while lying down or seating, scan from your head to your toe, pausing to notice any areas of tension, and saying silently to each part, you are allowed to soften, and taking a breath on that. Slow stretching can also be very supportive. Stretching encourages release and relaxation through physical space making. So that could look like gently rolling your shoulders back and forth, stretching your arms overhead, or doing a forward fold and breathing deeply into each stretch without rushing. Other rituals that can signal safety are simple repeated actions to tell your nervous system that we are safe. This is familiar to us. So that could look like those self-soothing exercises we chatted about, lighting candles, wrapping yourself in a cozy blanket, holding a warm mug, playing calming music, letting these cues be a comfort and grounding for your nervous system. So why does uncertainty feel so unsafe for us? Let's chat a bit about the neuroscience of the unknown. The brain has a bias towards prediction and control. The human brain is a prediction machine. It constantly scans for patterns, trying to predict what's coming next to keep you safe in each moment. And when it can't predict outcomes, the brain interprets that gap as a threat, even if nothing dangerous is actually happening. This is due to activity in the amygdala, the brain's alarm system. It's designed to detect and respond to threats, but it can't distinguish between a real physical danger, like a car speeding towards you, and an emotional risk, like being judged, rejected, or misunderstood. To your brain, emotional experiences that feel vulnerable, like setting a boundary, speaking your truth, or even asking for help, can trigger the same fight or flight response that an actual threat would. That's why your heart might race before a difficult conversation, or why your body might freeze when you feel exposed. The amygdala isn't rational, it's protective. And sometimes the things that help us grow can often feel unsafe, simply because they're unfamiliar or emotionally loaded. So uncertainty, which is unknown, can equal unsafety in our brain's language. Neuroscientist Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett explains that through her theory of constructed emotion, the brain doesn't predict the future by analyzing each moment as brand new. Instead, it uses concepts formed from past experiences to guess what might happen next. These mental shortcuts help the brain respond quickly, but when the situation feels unfamiliar or there isn't enough data to predict what's coming, the system can then become overwhelmed. This uncertainty, this gap in predictability, can trigger emotional responses like fear, anxiety, shutdown, or even irritability. Not because anything is necessarily wrong, but because the brain interprets the unknown as unsafe. In these moments, your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's doing exactly what it needs to do. It's trying to protect you. But protection isn't always what we need. Sometimes we need the capacity to stay, to remain present, even when we don't have the clarity yet of what's coming. The solution isn't rigid control or overthinking. It's co-regulation, self-compassion, and gently expanding our window of tolerance for uncertainty, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It's learning how to stay soft in the fog instead of bracing against it. Our bodies are always trying to protect us, even when it doesn't feel that way. There's a part of your nervous system that is constantly asking, am I safe right now? And depending on how it answers, your body may respond in three main ways. When you feel safe, your body relaxes. You feel calm, present, and connected. When something feels uncertain or stressful, your body might jump into protect mode, and you might feel anxious, tense, or on edge. And when these things feel way too overwhelming, your system might completely shut down. You might feel numb, spaced out, or like you just can't deal with anything. These are normal, automatic responses. You're not doing anything wrong. Your body is doing what it is built to do, and that is keep you safe. So what helps in these moments? It's trying things that gently signal safety back to your system. These are similar to techniques such as we talked about earlier with the self-soothing and all the different rituals that you can perform, such as breathing slowly, placing a hand on your heart, noticing your surroundings, or being near someone who feels comforting and safe to you. Your body's message becomes then, I am safe now, I can settle. So if you're curious about this and want to explore the science behind this, the idea comes from something called the polyvagal theory, developed by Dr. Stephen Porges. It explains how our nervous system shifts between states of calm, stress, and shutdown, based on how safe or unsafe we feel in any given moment. It's not just about what's happening on the outside. It's about how your body is interpreting each moment. Let's talk about another theory. It's called the window of tolerance, and it's your body's comfort zone. This was developed by Dr. Dan Siegel. So think of your emotions like a wave. There's a certain zone where you feel steady enough to ride the wave. You can think clearly, you can stay present, and you can respond in helpful ways. That's your window of tolerance. But sometimes stress pushes you outside of that window. If you go above it, you might feel anxious, reactive, overwhelmed, or panicky. If you drop below it, you might feel numb, shut down, or simply checked out. The goal isn't to stay in the window at all times. That's simply not realistic. It's to notice when you're outside of it and use gentle tools to come back in. So a helpful practice may be when you're feeling yourself getting overwhelmed or you feeling yourself shut down, try to simply name what's happening, such as I feel anxious right now, or I notice I'm starting to go numb. This naming can actually help re-engage the thinking part of your brain, and this can bring you back into a more balanced state. The window of tolerance is used in many forms of trauma-informed therapy to help people understand their nervous systems and emotions. Understanding your window of tolerance is the first step. It gives you a compassionate lens to see your reactions not as flaws, but as signs that your system is doing its best to cope. But awareness alone isn't always enough. What truly helps us return to steadiness is practice. Simple, gentle actions that signal to the body and the mind that you are safe and you can come back now. And this is where trust begins to grow, not from controlling every outcome, but from learning how to stay safe within yourself, even when things feel uncertain. So ask yourself, when I feel uncertain, what part of me is most afraid? And what does that part need to feel safe right now? Let this be an invitation, not a pressure. You don't need to change anything. You just need to simply start noticing. So let us begin to close off this podcast with a visualization for rooting into inner steadiness. Make sure that you're in a safe place to start this visualization, and begin by finding a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down. Let your hands rest gently. Let your eyes soften or close, and invite your body to take a deeper breath. Inhaling slowly and exhaling gently. Let yourself arrive now, not just in this moment, but in your body. Feel the ground beneath you, steady and supportive. Now imagine that you are sitting beneath a great tree. Its roots run deep, anchoring it firmly into the earth. Its trunk is strong yet flexible, able to bend, not break, in the wind. Above you, branches stretch toward the sky, open to light, change, and growth. The tree is you. With each breath, imagine roots gently growing from the base of your spine or your feet, reaching deep down into the earth. Feel them extending through the soil, the stone, deeper and deeper until they find stillness. Let these roots offer you steadiness. And as you breathe in, imagine drawing up calm, strength, and safety from the earth into your body. As you breathe out, realize what you no longer need: tension, worry, fear. And let it flow out through your roots and be held by the ground. In this space, you are rooted. You are steady even when the world moves around you. You don't need to have it all figured out right now. You just need to stay with yourself in this moment. Place a gentle hand over your heart if that feels supportive for you, and softly say, I am grounded. I am supported. I trust myself to meet this moment. Take one more full breath in and slowly exhale. And when you're ready, begin to return back to the space, carrying this steadiness with you throughout your day. So as we close off today's episode, perhaps you recognize uncertainty isn't the enemy. It's simply a signal from the body doing its best to protect you in the state of unknown. It's not a flaw, but a form of care, a nervous system seeking safety when the future feels unclear. So to gently recap, in this episode, we'd explored how uncertainty can impact our thoughts, emotions, and bodies, and how deeply normal it is to crave control in a world that often feels so unpredictable. From global instability to personal transitions, uncertainty has become a constant backdrop for us all. But instead of resisting it, we explored what it means to stay grounded within it. We talked about how the mind seeks safety through overthinking, how the heart can feel flooded with emotion, and how the body holds the stress of the unknown. More importantly, we explored gentle ways to meet each of these experiences. Through grounding practices, nervous system support, emotional validation, and reconnecting to inner trust. So as you move through your week, remember, you are allowed to pause as often as you need to. It's okay to not know everything that's to come. And you are allowed to trust yourself, even here and especially here. And maybe if it feels right for you, try one small thing to help you feel a little more anchored this week, like a grounding breath before checking your phone, a moment of stillness before bed, or journaling when the what-ifs get very loud. Let it be small, but let it be yours. Before you go, in today's conversation, if it brought you comfort or clarity, I'd love for you to pass it along. And if you're looking for more tools to support you through uncertain seasons, visit www.theintegrativecounselor.com. So much of the discomfort we feel in times of uncertainty stems from deeper questions. Am I doing enough? What if I get it wrong? Do I even deserve what I'm hoping for? Underneath the fear of the unknown, there's often a fear about our own worth, whether we're enough, whether we're safe to be seen, whether we have value when things feel uncertain or messy. That's why next week we're diving into a closely connected theme: becoming who you are, not who you think you should be. Because worthiness isn't something you earn by getting it all right. It's something you reclaim, especially when life feels unclear. Let's explore how to anchor into your value, even when the path ahead is still unfolding. Until then, keep coming home to yourself, my friends, one breath at a time, one moment at a time. With love and care, Julie, your integrative counselor.